Good evening again, and welcome to our session today. I'm excited to present today some great ideas for some strategic marketing for contractors and some tips on how to build your business in this competitive market. So again, my name is Zon Patan, and I'm the founder of the Wonder Group. I'm excited to share this information with you. I'm working in the Charlotte area, so we're East Coast and West Coast tonight. So we have some folks from both sides of the country. So this is exciting to have all of us here in one place to get some of this cool information. I'm from New Orleans, so you'll see a lot of my graphic backgrounds are from New Orleans, and this is kind of a highlight of our city. The week before Mardi Gras, we're about to get things going. So what should we expect this evening? So today we're going to talk about marketing fundamentals, just some basics on what marketing is and why we should do it, what lead generation is. We'll talk about marketing materials, some different bidding strategies, some strategies for follow-up and relationship building, some budget-friendly marketing tips, how to leverage your professional credentials. We'll do a little bit of a wrap-up and Q&A. And like Ken mentioned, the slides will be available, and I'll also send a link to some of the templates for some of the documents that we'll talk about today. I'm going to go through a little bit of housekeeping with you all. For ground rules, just please use the chat or the Q&A. If you have questions during the session, I will take time to check that out probably every other slide, just so you know. And I'm going to also ask that you engage with me via the chat during this session. So when you see this little icon on a slide, that's going to be one of those chat questions. And if you could just answer that prompt or that question in the chat so I can get a feel for where you are in the session, that would be great. All right. Once again, my name is Zon Patan, and I'm the founder of the Wonder Group. I kind of skipped over that slide, but our team is one of the partners with Meriwether Williams Insurance Services in the Charlotte area, supporting the contractor development program here. So they're doing great things in the East Coast and West Coast and helping contractors to build their businesses all across the nation. So it's really exciting to be a part of what they're doing. So thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit of this knowledge with your group. All right, so the first question, we're just going to get started with, are you bidding or are you selling? This is a really important question to ask as a contractor, especially if you are working a lot in the government space. You may be familiar with the bidding process, but maybe you haven't actually started selling, which is what the essence of marketing is about. So I wanted to kind of get a gauge of where you are with that. And looks like a lot of people are bidding. Okay, good. And so that's not surprising. So what happens when you're bidding is you're pretty much putting yourself in a competitive public marketplace where you are competing solely based on price and responsiveness to the bid. And in that area or that type of public bidding space, it becomes a little bit more constrained in how you can communicate and sell your product, sell your services, and how you can let people know who you are. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about how to approach your business from a sales perspective with marketing strategies. So when you start selling, you start to think about more of the reasons why people should buy your services, what makes your company stand out from other companies, and pretty much no one will know who you are without marketing. So why does marketing matter? The construction industry is very relationship driven, but it's highly competitive. I'm not sure how everything is in the LA market, but the construction market in Charlotte is booming and it's very saturated. There are lots of different players in the market, in the construction space, and they have a lot of the same similar skills. So you're competing against highly qualified competitors. This is a very, it's a growing market, it's a mature market. And so you're constantly competing against different trades. I mean, the same trades or same companies for the same work. So when you think about how you can set yourself apart, you want to think about your marketing approach. So contractors with a marketing plan average 23% higher annual growth than those companies that don't have a marketing plan. A marketing return on investment in construction can average you 5-1 in sales against your competition when it's properly executed. So you could potentially get $5 for every dollar you invest in your marketing if you do this correctly. So we'll talk about some of the ways that we can look at marketing conversion as we move through the program. So marketing also helps to turn one-time projects into repeat business. And this is really important because so many times when we talk about the relationships of the construction industry, it's not necessarily a favoritism situation as much as who do we know and who do we trust that can get this work done. So when you have one project and one opportunity, building those relationships with the project managers, the superintendent, those types of folks will help your company to position itself for the next project opportunity. So marketing can change the game. Looking at this from an ROI perspective, just when you think about that, investing $1 in a social media ad or $1 in a conference, when you look at the return on that, attending those types of events, what that could turn into as an ROI for your business. So just sit with that for just a second. So marketing really does change the game. But some of us, when we're starting out, we have marketing challenges. We're on a budget. It may be a small team where you don't really have time to learn all of the different software or all of the different tools that are out there. You may have those time constraints because you're out working the business, so you don't have time to build the business internally. And so there could be a lot of those challenges that strain your resources and your ability to be effective as in the marketing part of your business. So that's why we're here talking about this tonight, because as a smaller company or an emerging company, you want to be able to maximize your time by being more strategic about how you do these things. Also, you may have some budget limitations. You may not be able to make those investments off the bat because you're trying to get the business off the ground. And so we will talk about some of the things we can do on a budget. Some of the other challenges include the technical expertise versus the marketing skills. You may not have someone in-house that can do that. You may not even know how to do it or what you need. And you may be focused more on getting the work done in projects. And you may think, well, I'm just too busy to market my business. But how are you going to build the pipeline for more business if you don't go out and tell people that you are open for business? I was watching a training video a few years ago, and someone talked about how they were frustrated that they felt like someone was stealing their ideas or stealing their customers. And they're like, well, did you tell those customers you existed? And that's a lot of times the question that we have to ask ourselves as contractors and business owners. If you haven't gone out to tell anyone who you are, then your competition is going to win every day because they're getting access to those customers that you aren't getting. They are tapping into those markets that you aren't tapping into because they posted a LinkedIn post, because they posted an Instagram post. And sometimes it may be a challenge for you to think about how to do that effectively. But if you're too busy to market your business will start to shrink because you won't be able to sustain it and build a pipeline for the future. So how can we overcome some of these challenges? So the first thing is to think about leads. Now, we talk about leads and sales in different areas, but I want to define what a lead is. A lead is people who could potentially become customers in the future. And I know that sounds like that could be anybody, but it really can't be anybody. When you think about your business, who is your real customer? Okay, so let's say you are a drywall company, then maybe your main customer is a GC, or maybe your target customer is a mechanical firm. You may need to break down your customer base and understand who really buys what you sell. And that will help you target your marketing strategy to the right level customer. A lot of times in large government projects, firms want to bid on the prime contractor position as the construction management firm or the general contractor. But if you perform a trade or you self-perform a trade, you would be a customer to that prime contractor, not a direct contract owner. So you want to understand which part of the process you fit into, and then develop leads strategically based on that position. So these are folks that actually actively buy what you sell. These are folks that actively have projects in the pipeline that are coming up. And so these are real potential sales. Now, we all understand as well, there's a construction sales life cycle that is pretty slow. It's about 18 to 24 months from the time maybe a project gets greenlit, but from the time it actually goes out to market. So you have a bit of a window to learn about a project. You may, with public projects, you may hear people talking about elections and tax incentives or bond programs for schools or things like that. And so they may vote on a bond program for the schools, but that project or construction doesn't come down the pipe for 3 years. So you can monitor the market to understand what is coming out, and then start to develop those relationships and your pipeline based on that. So when you first start out, this is just a quick little kind of 4-step way to look at your lead generation pipeline. First, you want to identify who are your target customers. If you are located, like I'm going to use North Carolina as an example for this lesson. If you're in North Carolina, there are 100 counties. There are lots of school districts and government agencies and things like that. You may want to decide that you want to do work in schools. That may be your best work that you can do, is working in schools over the summer, having quick turnaround projects and renovations. And you may decide that's the best fit for my business. So you will take the next step and say, what does it take to do business with the school system? So if we look at the next step of qualify, what does that look like? Will the school have those projects? Do they already have a preferred bidder list? You know, you want to qualify whether or not this is a real good lead. So you want to get to know their needs, their upcoming timelines, upcoming projects. And that's what that qualification is. It's you qualifying whether or not they are a legitimate potential customer. Okay. Then you want to,
before you
yeah.
get too into it, is it okay if I interrupt you? There's 2 questions in the chat. There's 1 question in the chat and an individual has their hand raised. Would you want to save all questions to the end, or are you okay with?
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. All right. The first question is, I wonder what the source for those numbers of 23% and 5 and 1.
I can share that in the follow-up.
Perfect. And then Bonifacio, you had your hand raised. I'm going to allow you to speak and ask your question. Bonifacio, are you ready to ask your question?
I think I did it by mistake.
Your audio is not well. Okay, I'm gonna let you fix that. We have another hand raised. Eddie? Eddie, I'm gonna allow you to ask your question. Eddie, are you ready to ask your question?
No, well, if he wants to put it in the chat, we can come back to it.
Yeah, okay. If you guys want to put your questions in the chat, as Kenneth said, I'll let you go then, son.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Keep the questions coming. Thanks, Rena, for letting me know, because I kind of have it hidden over here on the side. So thanks for looking out there. All right. So we identify the lead, and then we want to qualify and understand that lead a little bit better. Then you want to determine a way to nurture that lead. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's turning a cold lead into a warm lead. So if you haven't been in sales and this is uncomfortable for you, I want to let you know it's time to get comfortable with sales. Okay. If you're in business, you have to get comfortable with selling, because that's what you're really doing. at the core, you're doing good work and all of that is great, but you have to sell because that's what's going to differentiate you from your competitors, okay? So you want to nurture those leads and turn cold leads into warm leads and then convert leads into customers. And so then you'll look at your conversion rate and how that all comes together. So this is just a quote here that the quality of your leads determines the quality of your business. So when you find those customers that are good customers or good leads, and you find associations or conferences where you always meet good folks that want to pay well, work with you well, that keep you in the loop, communicate, share your values, all of those kinds of things, that will help to determine the quality of your business, okay? We say like all money ain't good money. There's a reason why, and we can usually tell that from the beginning of the relationship that it won't be a good relationship from how those leads kind of convert. So before we get into the lead conversion, if you can use the chat really quickly, let me know, where do you find your leads today? What are some of the sources that you use to find your leads? Okay, so some Yelp, Government Watch, email blast, Building Connected, events, trade shows, postcards, online opportunities. Okay, events. Great. All right. So lots of different places out in the market where everyone wants your attention, right? Everyone wants you to come to a seminar, a workshop, a trade show, a conference, and you need to go to those things and be out in the marketplace, but also you want to understand what is your plan when you go to that event. So when you are planning to attend a conference or a trade show, you should have a plan in mind of how you want to approach that. So let's say you go to a conference, an annual conference, let's call it the Construction Management Association of America conference. So you want to go to this conference and you're going to make an investment in the travel, in the registration, and all of those things. But also you want to understand what companies are going to be there. So you may look at the list of firms that have registered, some of the sponsors. You may do some research on LinkedIn. You may do some research on the internet just to find out, who are these companies? Do they typically hire firms like yours? Maybe identify some of those people that are attending and then make a clear plan to connect with those folks when you get to that conference. When you can set a clear plan in motion, then you can verify whether that plan worked or not. So if you make the investment, let's just call it of $6,000 to go to a conference, you may set the goal that you want to meet 10 leads. Okay, and we just said a lead is a potential customer. So you may meet 10 people and these leads may be cold, but these are 10 potential leads. That's a great place to start. So if you decide, I'm going to make this $6,000 investment and I want to leave this conference with 10 leads, then when you do that, you have to have a plan for how you connect. So we'll talk about that, but where do you find your leads and is it serving you? There are lots of different events going on all the time, but is it where your customers are? You have to assess that to see if it really is a marketing investment or if it's just you networking. And sometimes networking is good practice for sales, but it's not always the same. Okay. When you're making that investment to show up, to take time, leave work early, change clothes, go to these events, you really want to have a strategy for how it's going to financially benefit the company in some way. So here's some ideas for leads, and a lot of you mentioned these. They're public bid boards like Bonfire, EVP procurement sites, Building Connected, having those relationships with the GCs where they're inviting you to bid opportunities. And then there are referral networks where you might be in a group where they refer you to different opportunities as they come up. then you may have some past clients that just keep you working and keep you busy, which is a great way to keep business going and lower your sales costs. However, it could get you into a state where you aren't actively selling and you aren't actively pursuing new customers. So past clients are great ways to find leads, but you want to make sure that you don't get too comfortable and that you're still selling to new clients. Industry events, also great places to find leads. Having that digital presence and a strategy for how you work your digital plan is also important. And then finding the best industry associations. I know many of you have heard me say this before. When I was in college, and my background is in technology, my professor told me that if you don't have a magazine come into your house about technology or computers, and you don't go to one conference a year about computers, then you are not in IT. Okay, so I say the same thing to my construction people. If you don't go to one conference a year about construction and you don't have one construction magazine come into your house, you may not really be a construction professional. So really ask yourself if you've made those investments in these industry associations and networks to keep you sharp, to keep you on top of things so that you can find the right leads and connections for your business. But these are some great places to find leads. And I see some more building connected events. Leads usually find us. That's a great way to do it. That's a great thing if leads are finding you. So that means you have a good marketing plan. All right. So this is a quick graphic to show you how a lead may start off cold. So that's the bottom. A lead that's cold means it's a general prospect. There's no real project there, but you have met these people. Do you think they're a good company? They share your values. You think you'll be good to work with them in the future. And so you determine strategically how often you want to connect with them. So in this template, it talks about following up every quarterly and checking in every 2 weeks, and how a cold lead doesn't really lead to high conversion. We want to slowly move a cold lead to hot. So a cool lead is when you have a project that may be in early planning stages. We talked about that long sales cycle for construction, so it may take some time. You want to move into warm. Once you're in warm and if there's an actual budget coming in, you want to be spec'd into that budget, right? You want to be a part of that budget technical spec. And so that means that you're going to warm this up a little bit more, and you're going to follow up a little bit more. So the first step is how fast you will respond to an email, and then how often you would actually meet. So you might respond to an email within 72 hours, and you might meet with the pre-con team or the project team bi-weekly to get more information on the project. When you have a hot lead, that means that there's an active project, there's a budget that's approved, and when they call you and say, hey, we need you to bid on this, we need you to look at this or sign this NDA, you're moving quickly, because that can quickly turn into an active contract for you. And so the conversion of a hot lead to a contract is higher, around 60 to 80%. So your goal in the sales cycle is, going back to our conference, you met 10 cold leads. At some point, you want to take those 10 cold leads and determine how many of them do you want to be hot. And that really goes to how much can you handle? So how many projects can you manage at one time, and how many can you actually work? So you don't want all 10 to hit at the same time, right? You want a few of them to hit, and we'll kind of talk about the likelihood of projects converting later. But your goal from the sales side is to turn a cold lead into a hot lead at a high rate. Okay. And Rena, I'll stop for a second. Are there any other comments in the okay, Project Blue Book Network? Okay.
Yes, there's 2 questions in the chat right now. So, and not in the chat, in the Q&A. Contractors are bombarded with requests. That's why they're so hard to reach. To succeed in communicating with them, we need to know what they actually care about. They want resources to help them achieve their goals. Do you know, or can you tell me what they care about?
What they care about? The GCs, is that what it said? Sorry.
I think it's referring to like GCs and trade contractors.
Well, I can tell you that CM at risk contractors or GCs are looking for a way to manage their risk. So they want the best contractor for the right price with the right safety culture where their risk is managed. Okay, because when you are the GC, you hold the insurance and liability for the project. And so having contractors that are able to meet your safety requirements and manage your risk, like you're having the right insurance and bonding, having the right OSHA training for your team, having good ladder safety, good equipment, all of those things help contractors, the GC team, to know that you're ready, your team is ready, and that you won't pose a potential safety or liability risk to their project. Okay, that's the most important thing. Then they want you to be able to do what you say you know how to do. So if you say you do flooring, they want you to know how to do flooring without them telling you how to do your job. So there's the risk piece, the safety, financial risk, and then there's the quality and competency that is required. And if you don't know and your crew doesn't know how to do the work, I guarantee you, doesn't matter how cheap you are, you will not be on that contract very long. So even though in a lot of public jobs, price is what drives a lot of the decisions, the best way to build that relationship is to share the same culture as the customer, and let them know, like, hey, I know you all are all about safety and technology. Here's what we're doing in safety. Here, our team is OSHA 30 certified. Our team is this, our team is that, and try to connect on the values that they share, because usually a company's values and safety culture and all that's on their website. Find those ways to connect because they're telling you what's important to them on their website. And a lot of times we don't use that information to our advantage. Okay. So I would say from what I have learned in procurement, it is risk management first, then competency, then price. And that's a good way to look at it. And you want to build that relationship so that they feel like, they can trust you on a project. Ken, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I would agree with that. There's also a follow-up question here. It says the lead qualification framework is an interesting thought. My only concern with this type of marketing is that it's not scalable. It's a very targeted approach to certain accounts and cannot be applied to more accounts without more manpower. How do you handle this with a 1 or 2 person marketing team?
You start with what you can handle. So I think it's all about what you can do and then scale and make that investment. So as you grow your business, you need to just understand marketing needs to be a part of your budget. It needs to stay a line item in your budget. So whether right now it can only be $500 a month for a few ads or an intern to do a few posts for you on social media, at some point it needs to grow so that you can have the tools you need to be competitive and to stand out against your competition in the market. So it's okay to start with where you are now. And what we're talking about here is exactly that. So when you start, let's go back to our conference. We met 10 folks at this conference. They're cold leads. And so now we're going to track them. So this is a way to track leads and it's on a budget. So if you don't have software for this, you can just use a spreadsheet and create your own CRM or customer relationship management software just using a spreadsheet. So, and I do have a template I can share with you after this, but simple is better than nothing because if you can't track it, you don't know where you are with your leads, right? So you met these 10 folks at this event. You want to put them in a spreadsheet, their name, their company, what you talked about, email address, contact information, and then start to track how often you communicate with them. What are you communicating about? Are you going to have a follow-up meeting with them, a coffee, a pitch presentation, a lunch and learn? What is your strategy to move them from cold to warm and through the process? But a spreadsheet on Office Online or Google Sheets or something like that can help you do that for a very low cost. It also will allow you to track the conversion so you can give yourself something to strive for. Most entrepreneurs are very achiever heavy. We like to check things off our list and say we did it, yay. And this will give you something to say, yes, we did it, because you'll be able to say, okay, I set a goal to turn a cold lead into a warm lead within 6 months or 12 months, and just kind of track how that goes. All right. And it'll kind of allow you to do that and track your progress and follow up. Also, if you decide to add a marketing person or a salesperson to help you, you can then share that spreadsheet with them and they can pick up where you left off. And that allows you to start to scale your marketing efforts without having to recreate or re-inform folks about what the work was that you've already done in your business. Okay.
Son, there's one individual who has their hand raised. Would you be open to their question right now?
Yes.
Okay, Yvette, if you're ready to ask your question. Yvette? Okay, I'm gonna take you off of it. We can't hear you. I'll put you back in once we can get your audio good.
Okay.
All right, you're all set, Son.
Okay. Looks like something's weird when they come off mute. I don't know what happens on that deal there. Okay. So now I'll talk a little bit about capability statements. I know this is something that we talk about a lot in the government contracting space. So a capability statement is a 1 or 2 page document that has some key components about your business. And so it usually has the company overview, your differentiators, core services, past projects, certifications and credentials, and contact information. And these are just some quick tips on CAPE statements. I'm going to show some examples here instead of going through the words. So basically, you want to have examples, a CAPE statement that has your core values, your competencies, things like that. But some of the key pieces that folks kind of skim over is your NAICS codes or NIGPS codes. So that's the codes that let the procurement officers know what commodities you work in. So just to give you a little bit of that, I know you probably, if you're in the program, you definitely know what these codes are, but that is also a marketing tool, because a lot of the marketing that you get from Bonfire or Building Connected, all of those systems is tied to how you registered with those codes. So there's an advantage to putting a lot of different codes out there, because you'll get notifications from several different opportunities. I tried this hack with my one of the classes I'm teaching right now, and I use AI for a lot of fun stuff. So I really encourage folks to use AI. But what I had the class do was put their mission, vision, kind of values into their the ChatGPT or your preferred AI tool, and ask it to come up with a list, a complete list of NAICS codes and NIGPS codes. And it came up with a lot more codes than you might come up with on your own. Because, you know, when you're looking through and it's a tree and you have to expand this and find that code, and it's just so complicated. Sometimes you may only pick the top 3 that you see, but the AI can find another list of codes that can help you and get you on the radar for other projects. So that's just a new hack that that I just learned recently, and I'd encourage you to try that out and refresh your capability statement. You also want to understand that for government contractors, the capability statement is pretty much your business card. So the procurement officers for the government will be at these various events, and when they receive your capability statement, they're usually going to scan it into a system and pull out that information, or someone may be typing that into a system, and that's how they register you with their department or agency. So that's why they ask for it to have these specific pieces of information, so they can grab that and quickly add you to their database. So it's really important to have an eye-catching capability statement, but also be clear about what you do and what you would like to do with that particular agency. I've met a few folks who do various services, and it may look different. So for example, I work with someone who did insurance adjuster services and workman's comp claims. And so they often have FEMA disaster contracts in hurricane and fire areas, but they also did workman's comp claims for like the Department of Transportation and things like that. So on their capability statements, they had two different ones, one that had images of, you know, more hurricane, wildfire stuff, the projects they've done in that space for the disaster relief insurance adjuster service, but also one that was more on the office administrative side graphically. So it had more pictures of people in an office and doing more data entry work for workman's comp claims. So you want to make sure that if you do different types of services, that your CAPE statement shows that visually so people can understand what you're selling at that particular event. Okay. Any questions about capability statements? Someone said in California, you also need the UNSPSC codes. That's great to know. Thank you, Louis.
That's great, Zahn. We've helped our clients put together capability statements as well. So if you need assistance, let us know. These are pretty graphically advanced, but you know, we can help you put together a simple one.
Awesome. So make sure you reach out to your CDM to see about getting your capability statements updated. Thank you. So quick question, how many of you have a capability statement? And if you don't, you need to talk to your CDM because Ken said you can get that going. All right, so sounds like Marcus needs some help with that. All right, definitely reach out to the team and see how you can get some help with your capability statement. It's really important, especially in the government contracting space. And the great way to use the capability statement once you have it, of course, it's at the different events that the government hosts, but also I would encourage you to make appointments with some of these folks in between bidding time. And that goes back to building those relationships like we talked about. So the good thing about different government contracts is you know who kind of manages the different projects, and they are public official, not officials, but they can talk to you, and they usually have appointments on the internet, and you can schedule time with them and let them know what you're looking for, what kind of projects you're interested in, and they will help you to navigate the system. And you want to introduce your business, show them your capability statement, tell them where you are in your, what your sweet spot is, what type of projects you're interested in. And there's sometimes informal projects, which mean they're under $1 threshold, where there's a preferred list or it's invite only. And sometimes those invite only opportunities come to those folks who have made those extra connections. So don't be afraid to reach out and speak to the different folks in the construction departments at your various agencies and municipalities so that you can start to build those relationships. All right, now we're going to move into digital presence. So we are now in a very digital world, and I know for the construction industry, that can be very intense because it's a very different thing from being more hands-on in the trades. But but the world has gone digital, and we have to kind of adjust with that. So you want to think about how you are presented to the world. So I'm going to tell you some things that when we go back to risk and credibility, that automatically flag in the system. So if you are familiar with the process to get pre-qualified, most companies use the same pre-qualification software to do pre-qualification. So most major GCs use that same tool. If your email address is Gmail, Yahoo, AOL, something like that, it's automatically flagged for potential credibility or risk issue. And so I'm going to tell you that because a lot of people may not tell you that. So I need you to know when people see that you have a Gmail or a Yahoo account, they automatically think that your business is not where it needs to be to do commercial projects. Okay. So I would encourage you, when you start to build your marketing budget, one of the first things you want to do is to get a domain and an email address associated with your business, where you can at least establish that digital presence from an email perspective. If you don't have the budget to do a website or do something super fancy, just at least get the domain and an email address or two that show that you have that information. Also, when you think about building credibility, we talk about business credit and credibility and all that kind of stuff. That also comes into play. Credibility is, are you a credible business? All right. So having the standard business marketing online helps you. And we know this, if someone recommends a restaurant to us, the first thing we do is we Google it, right? We want to see what are the reviews, where are they? Oh, they don't even have a website, and we may automatically go to something else. That's the same thing with your construction business. You want to make sure that people don't just automatically get turned off because they can't find you online. So you want to make sure that you have a mobile-friendly website that explains what you do, that you have some project portfolio pictures, not stock images, hopefully, but NDA cleared, whatever needs to be, pictures of projects, or showing the kind of clients you're looking for, some client testimonials that you can get cleared. And I'm saying that to make sure people understand that some of these projects you do need to get clearance before you can post these things online. So I'm just kind of giving that as a warning. And then your expertise. Who is your team? What do they do? How can they support the project? And then some kind of way to capture leads. We're back to leads again. So now you're using your website to be a salesperson for you. So we went to the conference and spent $6,000, but now we have a website that's all the time out there 24/7 capturing leads. So by having that contact us page and someone fills that out, you can capture leads without investing the $6,000 to travel to this conference. So now you have two different ways to market your business and capture leads. Also, having a Google business profile claimed is important. So again, people Google you. So if you can claim your business profile, that would be great. And also setting up a LinkedIn company page is free, and you can do that on LinkedIn. So a lot of these are free things that you can do. And having the website and a few email addresses is a very low cost investment, and it goes a long, long, long way. I can't tell you how much people are like, sometimes want to refer people, but they feel a little iffy about even referring them because they're like, oh, they still have a Yahoo account, but they're really good, and so you don't want someone to have to like kind of overcompensate for you because you haven't invested that in your business for marketing. And I'm going to take a minute and look at, I see the code, someone posted that.
There's a question in the Q&A. I'm not sure if we got to it, but where would someone who has limited skills in Excel, Google Sheets find examples of Excel, Google Sheets formatted for tracking leads to help get started building one?
I'm going to send a template for the leads tracking after the class, and you can start playing around with that. So that'll be a good start. Yep. And I saw in the chat, someone listed the codes if someone needs that as a reference. A Google business profile. So basically when you have a new address, you can claim your address on Google. So you want to search how to claim your address and create your Google business profile. So you can look that up. If you're using a PO box, I'm not exactly sure how that would work. So, but I'm sure it's probably online. Domain versus website. So I was saying, if you don't have the time to invest in designing a website, at least buy the domain and the email addresses first, so that you'll have an email address that's professional, and then you can invest in the website later. But the goal is to get a website eventually. So I was just trying to kind of step by step take it there, Marcus. All right, so most of these are free to some degree or very low cost now. So just please invest in it. I know sometimes people looked at this stuff back when they didn't really have cash flow, and now they do, and they still haven't just taken the time to stop and invest in it again. So I just want to encourage you to do that, because it does make a huge difference, especially when it's like looking at referrals and things like that. Okay. So what are some of the basic marketing materials that you need for your business? So if you are putting a starter kit together of things that you need, we want to start out with these types of materials. All right. So business cards that stand out. You want to make sure that your logo and everything is on there appropriately, that you have the right numbers and all the ways to contact you on there. Also, if you have any project portfolios in digital or in print, I know a lot of our architects and engineers walk around with those portfolios ready to go for any meeting they have. You need to start thinking about yourself as a salesperson for your business. Walk around with that portfolio of your capability statements, your business cards, how to contact you, and any information that would show what your project work is like. Another jump in price, but very effective, is job site signage. So being able to have your name on the wrap around the site obviously is great. But if you are a trade partner and that's not how that project is set up, that might be difficult, but it really is a good way to do that. If you're doing residential work, putting a sign in the yard saying that you're working on a project could be a great way to get referrals and to get advertising. Another one that is pretty low cost if you get a magnet, you can do vehicle branding and equipment branding. So stickers, magnets, those kinds of things can help you to just turn your regular car into a work vehicle with just a quick magnet. And those are pretty low cost and they usually go on sale a few times a year. So if you want to look at those types of marketing websites that have those materials, just start to create a little bit of a shopping list so you can start to budget and plan to purchase these things as you grow your business. Another thing that you could do that doesn't cost too much is an email signature with credentials. If you're not great at graphics and things like that, you can just have someone design a $5 one online or something like that, or use Canva to do an email signature. I saw Blink lately, which is a digital business card that also comes with an email signature. So there are some different tools out there that are pretty low cost that you can look at to see what the right fit is for your business. But having that email signature with your different ways to contact you would be a great way to brand and market your business. And then also just having these branded proposal templates. So making sure you have letterhead, making sure your invoices have your logo on it, those kinds of things that seem like back in the day, because we don't use letters anymore, it's important to have letterhead and branded envelopes and things like that, templates for your proposals, your slides, having your logos and things like that on them, so you'll be prepared. And so for those of you who haven't actually had to submit like a proposal because you're more used to bidding, you may not have had to put PowerPoint presentations together or slides like this. But as you grow in your business, a lot of the times you will be presenting your strategy and your approach in slides and not just in bid documents. So you want to be able to start making those investments and learning what you can about how to develop the different proposal templates. Let's see.
Questions in the chat, Zan. How
So
can we?
what is an email signature? So when you, at the bottom of your email, when you send an email, you can say, it's usually your name, your position, maybe your company name, how to contact you on LinkedIn or your website, those kinds of things. So that signature block that you might have, if you were writing a letter, it would be your email signature. Great question there. Thank you. All right, so I have another question for you in the chat. So what's one marketing strategy that you would implement if budget was of no concern? What would you do if budget was not an issue? TV ad. Billboards, mailers through the USPS. Great ideas there. Getting to the masses, right? You want as many people to know who you are as possible, using marketing platforms. All right. Targeted ads to GCs. Okay, buy a list of people that buy what we sell and hire someone to call and email them. So that's a very specific. I think you're about ready to go, Lewis, on that. You know what you want to do. Travel out of state to out of state companies, billboards, ads, web ads, host community event for my customers. Great ideas. These are all great ideas to market your business. And I want to let you know that you have to start researching what it costs and start planning for that. Because you may be freaking yourself out about how much that costs because you haven't actually priced it. I know that we're doing a little bit more in the marketing space and looking at ads for $6,000 to $8,000 a month is a crazy number, but back in the day, just one TV 30-second ad was about $8,000, right? So when you look at how pricing has changed, and how you can record a podcast or a video in your office, the costs have shifted a little bit on how you post things, but recording them is a little bit easier. So you may just want to play around and get creative and see how you can put this budget together. But these are great marketing strategies. I see some more using Wix to start your website. Yes, Wix is great for that. Super Bowl commercial. Absolutely. I think all of us would love a Super Bowl commercial. Hire marketing staff to handle those activities and develop content. Affiliate marketing. Great ideas. That means you all know exactly what you need. Your leaders, you know what you need. You just need the capital to get it going. And that's great because now you can imagine it all, budget for it, and then make sure that you put that in your markup on your next bid, right? All right. So let's talk about what people don't like to talk about. Losing. Losing and winning. So when you're marketing, you do all of this work and then it's a low bid project. So, or you do all this work and it's like a competitive bidding process. Whatever it is, you win some and you lose some, right? Part of the process of what we do is we sell and some people buy and some people don't buy. And we have to get comfortable with that being the business model of the construction business and business in general. So the industry averages, and I can share the sources and the templates later, is in private construction, you may get 1 win per 6 to 7 bids. Okay, so that means you're going to take the time to do site walks, job site visits, do all this stuff, prepare these bids, read these NDAs, go in Built and Connected, read the bid manual 7 times to get 1 contract, right? In public construction, it's a bigger pool of people bidding, so you will have more competition and you may win 1 project out of 15 bids. On design build projects, you may have 1 out of 4 to 5. And then if you are a top performer, you may win 1 out of every 4 bids that you go after. And that's after you've really sharpened your skills and you're able to clearly go to the market, clearly identify those customers, those leads are warm, all of that stuff is in place. And you're able to close the deal every time, or at least 25%. So even the best is 25%. So I think that should help give some people some calm, because I know when you're starting out and maybe you're not winning bids, you may get discouraged, but even the best folks are winning 1 out of 4, right? I was at an event for McFarland Construction, which is a large Black contractor in North Carolina. I think they're the largest African-American owned GC in the state. And they had their 15-year anniversary on Tuesday. And they said that they've won 66 out of 140 bids just in the last year. So just to think that their team worked on 140 bids just in 2024, and they won 66 projects. That shows you in 15 years what that takes. And that's the largest firm here that's an African-American firm. So it takes a lot of time and effort to do these things. And I just want to commend all of you for being able to sharpen your pencils, gain the skills, and work with the contractor development program so that you can become a more competitive bidder, become more successful at the bid that you're putting out there, and increase your strategy, your potential to win on your next bid opportunity. So when you see that in the public space, you may be bidding a lot more to get a win. The difference there is that kind of relationship that we talked about. Usually public construction is low bid or lowest and best depending on the state. But private construction, there's a little bit more competitive bidding and negotiation that may be involved in that, as well as design build. So how do you start to prepare for those opportunities? Usually with the GCs, like I mentioned, there's a pre-qualification step that is required. So pre-qualification is an essential step to being prepared to bid. Again, the pre-qualification process is pretty much the same for every major GC. They use the same software and a very similar scoring system to determine the risk level of doing business with your company. That's essentially what pre-qualification is doing. It is helping them to assess the risk of doing business with your company. So when you skip a bunch of questions on that form, you start to red flag them as a potential risk for their projects. So you want to make sure you complete those forms, you complete them to the best of your knowledge and ability. You ask questions if you have questions, and you don't leave those questions blank. You also want to have early engagement on projects. So when you hear that a project is coming up, you want to stay engaged in those discussions as much as possible if you've identified that as a lead. Again, leads are those folks that could be a potential customer or contract for you. You also want to have a strong go or no-go decision framework. And I also have a template for you to do that. And the go, no-go framework helps you to look at a solicitation and determine whether or not it fits your strategy. That's the best marketing you can do. Because if you're one of those companies that say, oh, we could do anything, that means you can't do anything. So you need to learn what is the right fit for your project and your company and focus on that. And this framework kind of is a quick questionnaire that helps you to assess whether it's a good fit for your project. So you can be strategic and focus your resources on winnable projects instead of focusing your resources on something that may not be a good fit and you aren't a competitive bidder for that project. You also need to know when to walk away. And you need to understand that the contract conversation is a two-way street. So even though you would like this project, you want the project to grow your business, not to bankrupt your business, not to put you in a stressful situation where your cash flow is tied up for months, all those things. You want to understand when you kind of hit a point and you're at capacity on a project and be strategic. Even when you look at your bonding may be tied up on another project, so you can't go out and bid on a whole bunch of other projects. That's when you need to call your CDM again and talk about ways to extend your bond line, but also understand what does that mean for your capacity and your resources and how that affects your ability to bid on more projects. Okay. So beyond price, why do clients choose different firms? I think someone asked that earlier. And this is like a quick survey of construction firms and why they've chosen different types of trade partners or vendors. So 68% previous relationship, 56% project-specific expertise, 42% presentation quality. What did we just talk about? Marketing. 38% response time. 32% references and testimonials. And I can attest to response time is a huge, huge challenge for growing business owners because you may be inundated with emails and bonfire alerts and system alerts about different opportunities. And so when another opportunity comes, you don't respond fast enough. They ask you a question in Procore and you don't see it because they have an RFI and you don't see what's going on. You miss these alerts. And so your response time makes you seem like a not a great person to work with, because again, we're talking about relationships. And what do we like in relationship? Effective communication, managing expectations. You get what you pay for. So people want to be able to have that credibility, have that consistency, and be a trusted partner on those projects. So clearly the previous relationship takes the cake, which is that trusted partnership. And I know a lot of time new contractors say, oh, they always use the same people over and over again. You know why? Because the risk is lower. You know, when you are going to a new hair salon, you are very nervous because the risk is high. You don't have a relationship. There's not a lot of trust there. It doesn't mean that you don't like them. It doesn't mean anything negative or biased. But sometimes it just means I just don't know you. So I'm going to have to watch you, and I'm going to have to make sure we have clear communication and we are building a relationship. So once you have some skin in the game, you've gone through some conflict, you've overcome some conflict, you know how to work with each other. Now I trust you. And even if you don't always get it right, I trust that I can tell you when I need you to change it and you'll fix it. Right. So sometimes it's not that everything was perfect, but it's that we can work through issues together and get over them. And I think some folks miss that opportunity to overcome conflict well, and they miss an opportunity to build that relationship. Another one is the project-specific expertise. This is really, really, really important, and it's come up a lot in the different projects that we're working on in the healthcare space, in the hyperscale space, in the airport space. When you are deciding that you want your company to work in a specific vertical industry in construction, you may need to invest in additional certifications, training, and licenses to be competitive in that space. For example, if you want to work in an active healthcare environment, there are very specific OSHA requirements around pathogens, disease control, infectious disease control, and how you manage dust and debris in that space, because it has to be a sterile environment, right? So being able to do work in a hospital isn't just that you know how to paint. It is now, do you know how to paint, and do you have all of these licenses and training? Is your staff trained to do that effectively? Same thing with hyperscalers. They're trying to do something at a very fast speed. They want to make sure that you have the software to do what they want to do. They don't want to train you on the software. They want you to know how to use BIM. They want you to know how to use these systems. They want you to know lean construction principles. They want you to have made those investments yourself as an industry professional. Right? So project-specific expertise means that you have made those investments to be the partner we're looking for. And that's 56% of why folks choose folks over price. And then presentation quality, I mentioned before, sometimes just being out there more, having good branded materials will set you apart. And that's what we're talking about today. How you put yourself out there, how you market yourself, could make a huge difference in how you're seen in the marketplace. I used to be in procurement, and I would be on these interview panels, and sometimes you'd have construction companies come in with easels and displays and videos and animation, and they come in with all this fancy stuff that sometimes they have. I've seen architects come with the VR goggles so you can feel like you're in the space. All of that goes into how you perceive them, how prepared they are, how innovative they are, and all those things. And presentation quality goes a really long way. So I really want to encourage you to invest in your presentation quality of your business on the web and in print. I'll take a minute here, take a break for questions, and take a sip of my Coke.
I don't see any questions. Ken, do you?
Okay, cool. Well, we'll power through the next few. Okay, so these are some tips on how to follow up after you've submitted a bid to continue building those relationships. So during the bid submission process, you want to obviously say thank you if that's allowed. You know, if it's a public bid, you may not be able to communicate. So please check out for that. Before the bid is due, you may want to call and check in and just let folks know what you're doing. If you win the bid, you may want to contact them within 24 hours and say thank you and ask what are the next steps. If you lose the bid, you may want to send another message asking for a debrief, which we'll go over next. And then after the project, you may want to check in every 30, 90, 180 days just to say, you know, how's everything going? You know, maybe check on warranties, maybe see if there are any other upcoming opportunities. So this is a good way to follow up once you've submitted a bid to keep that relationship going, because you don't want to go from cold to warm to hot, close the deal, complete the work, and then they never hear from you again. The point is to build that relationship, become a consistent customer, get those referrals for the next project with them, and also just stay in the loop as things start to come up. So I mentioned a debrief before, and we talk about debriefs a lot. These are really important to help you to be better, and it also helps to establish a relationship and rapport. You would be surprised at how many people just lose a bid and never even ask what happened, okay? When you are requesting a debrief, this is your way of saying, we would like to understand what we didn't do well. So ask specifically, what would have made our bid more competitive? A lot of times they won't be super specific, but they can tell you your pricing was off. And so you may be able to ask another question like over or under, you know, like how did it go? So you can ask more questions, but you definitely want to know what you could have done to make it more competitive. You want to know where you ranked out of the other bidders, maybe understand what your strengths are, areas for improvement, and then thank them for their time in doing that. Then the most important part that people just don't do is do what they said. So they give you feedback. You want to implement those improvements the next time. Okay. And I think that goes such a long way. And people don't really understand that. And I was actually at a lunch today and I was talking to someone and he was saying how so many people have gotten growth through different programs like the bonding program because they actually do what we're asking you to do. If we're saying, hey, go to the pre-bid meetings, send a note to the people in the chat, let them know you want to be a partner or a trade partner on the project, follow up, do those things. And then they're like, oh, we actually got on that project. Duh, we're not making this up. This is really how it goes. And so those contractors that are doing it, they really are consistently winning because so many people will just not do it. You'll be surprised how many people just won't even do the basic things of following up or sending a quick email to follow up from a marketing perspective. Even from a pre-bid meeting, which is a great marketing place because you see the potential bidders all in one place. You can take a screenshot of that chat. You can reach out to them, introduce yourself and say, hey, I do painting. I'd love to be on this project. Contact me like this. If one person emails you back out of those 10 leads, right? And that's warm leads because you know they're actually interested in this project and they may need minority participation on that project. Now here you are where you know you can get that done. So being able to make those connections and implement these instructions and feedback we're giving you is going to really set you apart from those folks who don't even go to the pre-bids, they don't go to the site walks, they don't meet the people. So you taking the steps tonight to even be in this program show that you're willing to take the extra step and implement some different techniques. Melanie said she asked those debrief questions on a USDA project and they responded very quickly. It says my screen cut off. Is my screen cut off? You can see, okay, cool. Great, thank you, Melanie. Okay. So industry certifications. This is another way to set yourself apart. I just kind of talked about ICRA and everything like that, but having those licenses will help you from a marketing perspective, okay? And this is how you can leverage that. Once you get certified, you can post on your social media that you're certified. You can add it to your capability statement. You can add it to your website. So you start to use that certification not just on your resume to go after projects, but as a way to market. Then usually those groups have continuing education or some other type of ongoing marketing where you can join organizations and meet other folks in the profession and then decide whether or not you want to market with them. But having the certification will set you apart in bidding in general, just by having that extra qualification, but also you can leverage it at conferences, having the logo and all that kind of stuff on your credentials. So there's lots of ways to leverage your experience and your expertise and your team's expertise as well. Sometimes you may not have all the knowledge or expertise, but your team does. So you might want to ask your team, hey, what certifications do you all have that we can start to tell our clients that we specialize in as well? Okay, so industry certifications is a great way to let folks know that you are serious about what you're doing. All right. So we've talked about a lot of different things to track, and we talked about Google Sheets and things like that. So, and how to track your lead sources in that way. So now we're going to just talk about measuring what matters. I love that book. Please get it if you don't have it. It's really important. And in the marketing space, it's going to help you to understand if you're really good at sales. And if you aren't, you need to get good at sales. You can't just be good at bidding. And I really want you to take that away from this tonight. You can't just be good at bidding. You need to be good at sales and marketing. You want to start to measure and track your own success in these key areas. Where are you getting your leads? Are those good lead sources? Right? So if you're going to a conference and you wanted to meet 10 folks, but you only met 5, then that's not a good lead source. If you went to a trade show and you thought they were going to have a bunch of construction people, but it was just a bunch of suppliers selling different things and you didn't meet a potential customer, but they were trying to sell you stuff, then don't go to that conference or trade show next time, unless you just want to network. But you need to understand whether there's a good value in that lead source so you can determine how much of an investment you want to make in that organization or going into those kind of events. You want to track your bid to win ratio. You want to look at that and start to understand if you're not winning ever, then you may need someone to do a bid review. You may need to look at other ways to look at documents because you really should start to, be more competitive and win some of these bids. So please reach out to your CDM to get a bid review on your bids so that you can improve that ratio, but you want to track it so you can see how good you are at it. Because sometimes you may be really good at the trade, but the math part might not be your jam. So that's okay, but you want to make sure you get the right folks helping you out. And the program does that for you. You also want to be able to start to track how much it costs you to acquire a lead. And that acquisition could look like that $6,000 registration. It could look like the sales and marketing on your website. It could look like the LinkedIn ads, whatever you're doing. And you want to be able to track that so you can budget for it, put it in your overhead, all those fun stuff that we love budgets time. You want to also start to track client retention rate. Are folks hiring you once and never hiring you again? What's going on there? You want to dig into that. You want to look at your referral rate. Are people referring you for other opportunities or not really? And then you can also look at your website traffic and see how folks are connecting with you and finding you. So that's really these are some good, easy metrics to start. And they're also in the template that I'll be sending out after the program. I was at a Caltrans event yesterday and met a person walking in that purchases lighting that we sell. I met another vendor at a table to buy lighting. I had no idea either of them were there. I emailed them both this morning. Great job, Lewis. You're on it again. So Lewis is following up with those leads. And that's so important to have that follow-up strategy to know I'm going to go to this conference. I'm going to meet these people. Let me follow up with them very quickly the next day and set up that next call to action. A great job. All right. So wrapping us up, what do the numbers say? So contractors that invest 1.5 to 3.5% of their revenue in marketing, contractors that do that. Optimized websites can generate 2.5 times more leads. So we talk about SEO and all that. Look at those ways to make sure that your website is moving at its optimal performance, and it's in the search engines and all that. 78% of contractors report referrals as their top lead source. Certifications increase bid win rates by up to 15%. How many of you, well, I can't really see that fast, but I'm sure I've heard people that have missed out on contracts because they didn't have a certification or a license, even from like traffic control or a GC license or a certain level of electrical license. So having those certifications can increase your rates, win rates, and structured follow-up increases conversion by 21%. That's really important. So like Lewis went to that event the other day. He met 2 folks. He followed up with them the next day. Having a plan for yourself is going to be how you do that on a budget. So you plan to go to this event on a Tuesday, put it on your calendar. On Wednesday morning, I'm going to send follow-up emails. I'm going to scan the business cards. I'm going to follow them on LinkedIn. Schedule that time. As soon as you schedule the event, schedule the follow-up plan. Okay, so having that structured follow-up will help to increase your conversion, because again, most people won't follow up at all. So you're going to stand out by just following some of these steps. And with that, I'll just go ahead and close it up open it up for questions and close out the presentation.
Okay, we have one question in the Q&A. If everyone is adding their certification on their marketing materials, how do we differentiate?
Getting better certifications. So I would say everyone's putting their WBE or those kind of certifications, but think about your industry. So if the industry standard is to get some type of ICRA or infectious disease control certification, then that's the industry standard. So try to move up through the industry standard as much as you can. Usually with, I think with the Lean Institute, there are levels of Lean, there are levels of LEED certifications and training and green building initiatives levels. So even with the certifications, there are levels to it. So you can always differentiate yourself as you advance through the levels and experience. Even with OSHA, you start with OSHA 10, then you move to OSHA 100, right? So you can always continue to increase your education and experience to remain competitive. Thank you all.